It's an uneasy alliance as Esme and the Mutant Underground team up to capture Dr. Campbell before the HOUND program could be expanded nationally. But when things go south and Sentinel services closes in, it could signal both the end of the Underground and the return of the Hellfire Club. It's the season finale of The Gifted, Season 1, Episodes 12 and 13, eXtraction and Crossroads. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our last review this season of The Gifted. So yes, of course, spoilers, they are a-coming. Alright, so I thought we'd have a good season finale this week here. Nice, sort of wrapped up a few expected storylines, moved things off in some, again, not unexpected directions, but also left us out with a few little questions floating in there. Kind of the perfect way that you have a season finale. So we do, of course, have a 2-hour episode, so I'm going to try and push through here, just hit some of the main themes and ideas and points, so I'm not just talking here for 40 minutes, which you guys know I can do if you give me a 2-hour program. So let's sort of jump right off into things, kind of as the episode does with Humanity Today, our little pro-human organization. I like that we got to see sort of, an early Dr. Campbell and the more modern one, basically seeing how Humanity Today has sort of embraced this pro-human point of view, certainly spearheaded, as we can see from that first speech off by Dr. Campbell. But I think they organized this conference, this group, well in the idea of something that is despicable and hateful and yet not unreminiscent of things that we might be experiencing today. Basically putting mutants in the negative zone as the villain. And we have a lot of our standard fallbacks. We've got Montez's discussion there during his speech about the Constitution. But the Constitution was written for humans, by humans, for humans, and shouldn't apply to mutants. So we already have that kind of separation of these ideals of who is protected and who isn't protected. We even had that little bit of a speech there from Montez as he was talking before Campbell came up, talking about the support amongst the public. The evangelicals, 30% are against mutants, but a plurality thinks that we should protect them. And that sort of falls in the middle here. So we have all of these forces kind of weighing prejudice from a polling standpoint, which was kind of frightening. And I thought Polaris put in a really interesting point when she was talking about looking at all of these people gathering and smiling, and inside they're planning the demise of an entire species. Sort of a way of keeping it, while everything at the conference is all very bright and happy, really, everything they're working at, very dark. And I thought they sort of framed that up really nicely. But from our mutant community standpoint, this episode, of course, is really the split. We have kind of all those final fractures that have been established in the past, not kind of from the beginning, but certainly accentuated once Esme showed up, into our kind of two camps of the ones that are kind of pro-X-Men and pro-Brotherhood. We can pretty much sort of break things down in that aspect. Those that are still looking for mutants to be heroes, to be defenders, to not be crossing the line. It's not about attacking humans, it's about defending mutants. Whereas we have the more Brotherhood aspect, which is defend mutants no matter what, at any cost. You can cross any line you want to. And that's really the prime distinction that we're going to have between these two mutant groups. And we have Esme doing her job pretty much throughout this, sowing dissent, doing it right away, and being rather consistent throughout the whole thing. Loved her starting to work off on Blink there, bringing up her background, which again is another real quick. If you're ever in a situation like this and you're fleeing an oppressive government agency and you're going from one underground place to another underground place, here's a basic lesson. Secrets are bad. We've already sort of hit on that in this show before. But to me, we really started off our first episode, we really started off eXtraction here, hitting this theme hard. is Esme is starting to put a break between Clarice and John and the rest of the Mutant Underground, because there is something about her past that she has not revealed. There is some secret that she has kept. I like the fact that they push against that. I like that John's reaction kind of was good and bad. I mean, I like the fact that she was trying to move forward, but I thought an overly dramatic response to, I like that Clarice was stepping in immediately and going, look, this is what happened. This is what I didn't tell you. This is why I didn't tell you what happened. I mean, they haven't really also opened things up, like, as you go into the underground, have a complete background and complete, back history of everything that you have done. So I think it's kind of harsh for John to, be that harsh on her, that judgmental. But I just also think it was also just overly dramatic. It was overly dramatic of a situation, considering everything that has gone for, and that she has, in a way, proved herself. Now, ultimately, I think that was done so that we can have, the emotional return out of that, so that we can have Blink showing that no, Esme will cross the line. You can't kill this guy, this old racist billionaire. You might want to, but you can't, because it's wrong. To use that to show what her position was, that no, she is, pro-good side, so that John can then have that reaction, and then we can get our nice little kissy moment. That was great. John felt all forgivey, and Clarice felt all kissy, and yeah, that felt real, as Clarice said. So, I don't know. I think that was that's one of the overly dramatic moments that kind of get to me at times. It's just that bigger response from John, I think, was only fed so that we could have that payback at the end. And I think they could have gotten to that moment without the overly judgmental reaction. Now, of course, Lorna is another of Esme's targets here, and the more natural one. It's not a surprise that Polaris ends up flipping at the end. She has really moved in this direction, and kind of like Eclipse says later on, ever since they pulled her out of the jail, every time they rescued her from Sentinel services, she has been different. Certainly, she's pregnant, and Sentinel threatened her baby and everything else, so yeah, that's already going to start making her a bit upset. But we get a lot of this arc, and I like the fact that we didn't have a real simple movement of that arc, that it did take some time, that initially we do have, Eclipse and Lorna on the same side. Lorna's doing this because she needs to do that because she needs to strike back as a proactive defense for her family. Eclipse does not want to work with Esme and everyone, but he's going to because that's what Lorna wants to do. They're still showing that they are together. And I think that was sort of important as we see the rest of her arc throughout this episode, really constantly being tested. They try to do the kidnapping, that falls apart. She's seeing humanity first, straight up close, seeing the intensity of the danger, how much hatred is out there. So when everything sort of falls apart, she's just in that perfect place for Esme, who has just been constantly teasing back with the powers and the humanity and the family background. Be what it is that you've got to be. You've got to fight for your family. Hitting all of those points that are really the most important for Lorna, as really a telepath naturally could. It wasn't really an unexpected direction for Polaris to go throughout this episode. Now, I really like that scene between her and Blink, though, where Blink comes up and talks about, just flat out says, oh yeah, Esme's been working and she's trying to do these things and get us and make us do it. Great, but you're not falling for that, right? Of course not. And Lorna does her little wavering bit, and I like Blink putting back and saying, look, you don't start to look like this with these eyes and everything without a strong, mutant background. And how much she has tried to escape her family, and seeing that family, that genetic linkage is just one small little bit and should not determine who you are. I really think that was a great strong point, because of course not only are we having Lorna dealing with that pull of the family, but of course we also have Andy doing that as well, who there has been that interesting waver back and forth, which I have liked, because he's gone from the expected, we're going full brotherhood, to, well, maybe he's not. Maybe it's Lorna that's going to go in that direction. They had the little plays back and forth, which I liked. So I'm not entirely sure how to feel about Andy's move, honestly, in this episode. It's not unexpected. It feels played out. I like the fact that they meshed it up for a little while. So, I mean, I guess it's a full dedication that this is the direction that Andy was going to end up going. He is angry. He is proactive. He wants to defend his family, which is a little different from Lorna, who has had that sort of back and forth, but has usually ended up on the same side of, no, we have to defend people. It's not about attacking the enemy. It's about defending our people. So, again, not an unexpected. I also noticed that Esme didn't really have to work too hard on Andy in this episode. And he was pretty much going that direction already. I think Esme knew that. It's like, no, just let him go on his own. And I mostly like the kind of back and forth that we had between Lorna and Andy in this episode also. I like the sort of give and the back and forth, and that he's sort of striking out. The parents, on the other hand, they kind of bugged a little bit. All right, Caitlin pretty much had two jobs in these episodes. One, to constantly say we have to stick together as a family. And to have a little sort of tete-a-tete argument face-off there with Fade. That was pretty much all of her stuff. Okay, she did have the nice little moment there when they went to the mom's office, kind of improvising, playing that she was somebody else and recognizing the guy's marriage ring and just sort of going with that. That was kind of cool. That was a good little moment. And I did like, after the annoying kind of conflict that she was having with Fade, is when things came down to it, she was just looking at him like, look, we're going to save the kids, you're going to get on, we're going to do it. Done. I did like that. But the constant repetition, it had to be at least 3 times in the episode, which is, we have to stick together as a family. They need to give her more to do. I mean, I like they kind of expanded in the sort of rescue thing and the fact that for dedication and being there and with the Mutant HQ. But they need to do more. I mean, and the same with Reed. Look, when everything is falling apart and Reed steps up and becomes a leader and says, we're going to fight, we're going to get out of here, we're going to do this thing. That's great. And to use this character for that scene, I kind of get it. But it also sort of bothers me that, like, there's nobody else in the chain of command. We have our 3 main people that as soon as they leave, everything else falls apart. I did like there were other mutants at least helping to build the defenses. That was awesome. We have a big strong guy going and moving stuff around, and we just had Thunderbird doing that all by himself a couple episodes ago. So I'm glad that we have some more action going. And yes, it's the finale. We've got more stuff going on. But it just, all I'm thinking when Reed kind of stepped up and did his big speech there is, we're going to get together, we're going to fight, and if you know this, then we're going to do this. I was just like, there's nobody else? Really? He's the guy that steps up? It just seemed a little bit out of place. I did like them, you know, the whole combat ideas and stuff, and we'll get into that in just a minute. I don't know. Reed, I wasn't entirely sure about. And even the whole mom arc that we had in the first episode seemed, well, honestly, it was kind of like the whole Otto thing for me. It just seemed like it was a filler of time. Give a little background, give a little bit of information, and just kind of give people something to do. If you're wanted so much, you're really going to go into the office, why don't you just call up from downstairs? You have a cell phone. You gave one to the kids, right? I mean, just, hey, come downstairs, delivery, something. I don't know. It just seemed like walking through the office seemed a little bit pulling into danger. And also, of course, she's only there. She just sees things, then I'm going to go and take off and head off to Boca Raton. At least they didn't kill her. That was nice. But for that point, we're basically just there to get information. Basically ending up for what the whole assistant was, which is where we're going to be heading off, I think, for the Structures following into next season, since we have found out. And that was an interesting bit. Is that as excited as Campbell was about his anti-mutant serum that he could now piece together, that he didn't bother checking to see if he actually had the information that he needed in order to build said anti-mutant serum. But no, apparently the needed information is in the notebook that Reed has. So that started off the whole search. So, I mean, at least he can't do this immediately. That's kind of a plus. Important information in the notebook, more things to find out. But again, the whole arc is basically just so we can get our assistant's name and be able to head off, I think, next season to try and find out more along those lines. All right, well, let's talk Jace and Sentinel services. First off, he got an actual hound. I thought that was funny. This one's clairvoyant, and this one can trace organic molecules. So you've got a bloodhound, basically. I thought that was amusing. So we got some new mutants heading out, but this sort of leads us obviously to our big finale parts. We kind of have the two-part there, and I'm going to start off with our attack on Mutant HQ. First off, the fact that Mutant HQ is inside a contamination zone, I thought was brilliant. I was kind of wondering how come they haven't tracked or anything down or anything like this, but if this is in some radiation contamination zone and you're not allowed to go in there, that sounds like a perfect place to hide. I love it. Also, that their scout has the ability to induce fear. I'm assuming unease. I didn't exactly get it. Everybody felt uncomfortable. And Jace had just mentioned something about he's already had, lived his worst nightmare twice, the death of his daughter. So he was able to push through that. I like that he was able to push through it too. But I just thought that was a great setup and explained so much about the Mutant Underground and why they haven't had anyone around there or ID'd. So I just thought, I really enjoyed that bit. I thought that was great. Then, of course, we do have our full-on Hound attack, which I liked. Like I said, we've got our previous groups that we saw, the ones that do all the kinetic movement, I think it was gravity and inertia controllers, followed up by the other Hounds. We had one more group came in that just sort of screamed. One of them did, kind of gruesome, nasty looking. But we didn't end up seeing anything more about them after everything fell apart. This is, of course, when we do have Reed with his inspiring speech. But I did like that we have sort of the return, the payoff for Polaris's training. That they pulled up everyone with combat training. It's just a small group that we've seen. And then we even have Andy, kind of speaking up. This is what he said previously when he had just moved upstairs to those other kids. This is what Polaris has trained us for. And sort of repeats this at the beginning. Stick together, work as one, he's buying into the whole thing. And for his eventual move over to Polaris' side is kind of perfect. Already is sort of an admiration built up right there. I liked how at least they split things up. If you could do something, great, defend. If you can't, go down for the escape route. The escape thing was kind of interesting for me. Like Big Guy sort of tearing things up, working with Shatter to weaken the structure there so that he could continue to break and pull it all out. I'm not entirely sure what they meant by just escaping outside of the southeast corner, that no one would look there. I mean, I figure if you have the building surrounded, but I guess it's not. It's just the front, which seemed kind of odd from a tactical standpoint. It's just, the building wasn't big enough for them to be like underneath and then you have a line and they're able to come up. And I thought they were going to tunnel or something past the line and then be able to pop up. But I guess, no, they just basically pop in a hole up through the wall and up in there and out the back wall. Anyway, it just, that seemed a little weak for me from an escape standpoint. That was basically just running out the back. But the whole assault I thought was very cool. I liked that they were able to foot back. They had a couple of rounds coming in. It was nicely done. Then the retreat. The most important part, though, I think, of that scene was that when Andy and Lauren finally give the plan, we can cover you, you get out, we'll take it out, they won't come out. The parents didn't argue. That was like the best moment for me. The parents were like, Great. Well, you sure you know this is going to be? All right. Well, you get out. Watch them. Okay, good luck. We'll see you later. This isn't goodbye. That was like the quickest decision for the most dangerous thing that the kids have done compared with everything else. Surprised me a little bit, but I was glad they didn't drag that moment out. There wasn't time for it. So I really appreciated that. Now, their final bit, this was almost our scene of the week. Almost. Finally, we get the Strucker kids. They're doing their power. They're going to go full on out. They're taking everything. It starts off when everything kind of came into focus and they saw the first group of hounds. I was like, yeah, it's going to go. But they waited, brought him a little bit closer. I was okay with that. And I almost got even a little bit emotional once they started going. The hair was flying, the lights were breaking, and everything was all shiny. And Sage looks back from the running group and like, oh my God, what's happening? And it gets bright, and then they cut to the next scene. I was just a little disappointed in that. Now, showing all the destruction and the loss and everything, it's expensive, big effects, you got a whole different location. There's a lot of stuff involved with that. I understand. I'm not saying I necessarily had to see that. But I felt like they were just building to that whole point as everything started cracking and shining, and then they just cut. And later on, we have, Sage's response of, it was, it's just gone. I've never seen anything like that. I almost wanted to really see what it was that was left over. And they imply it, and again, I get that from a budgetary standpoint, and it kind of still leaves a little bit of a mystery in the air. But I have to admit that once they did that cut scene, I felt a little let down. It was like, man, I feel like I just missed the really good part. All right, the attack on Dr. Campbell, I thought, could have really been handled a little bit better. I mean, okay, look, Blink is, of course, your transporter. Then you've got Johns, who's your muscle, and Eclipse, Marco, who's your sort of distance guy, can do also the big flash and stun, which I loved, was great. But how come the telepath doesn't come? You've got 3 of them. And what, you need 2 of them to move Bennett's body? You could probably just have him do it, have one there, just make him do it all by himself. Walk over there, sit down, tie yourself up practically. And then, of course, one more, one of the last one, Esme, to go ahead and keep pushing and messing with Lorna. But I just thought as an attack group, especially since this is sort of Esme's big plan, that she wasn't there to make sure that it went through. I like the shock. I like the little blinding flash thing. That was cool. Of course, Campbell's got his own mutant guy that goes after Marcos. Cool enough. But let's face it, because Campbell's a sneaky bastard, and sure enough is more than happy to grab children and use them as a human shield to keep him from being hurt. And I love the fact how he's telling the kids, oh, it's there, we've got to be protected, ha ha ha. Meanwhile, he's pointing the gun at the kid as he's looking at John and Marco and Blink and just been like, yeah, you're not going to hurt. That's his plan. Here, I'm going to shoot a kid unless you let me go. Yeah, that's the kind of guy that we're dealing with. So we can see why when things go south, and Esme gets very upset. Again, very upset for not being there. Certainly, why not shoot kids? That's where she comes from. You can really see her point of view on things. But why we have, of course, Lorna finally making that break and deciding to go after Campbell to stop him before the HOUND program can be put nationally. Too much of a threat to her kid now. I like the fact that she did it on her own. She left everyone else back, taking responsibility onto herself. In the last bit, I was kind of surprised that she asked Esme to go ahead and leave, so you don't see me, so it's just all of my stuff. Like, they're going to, like John and Marcos is going to think that Esme had nothing to do with this. Yeah, I don't believe it. But this does lead us, of course, to our final scene of the week for this season. And that is the last scene with Lorna taking down the plane. And this beat out our previous almost scene, like I said, that final scene with the Strucker kids. because there was a more character arc going on here. We finally have Lorna breaking out from that old connection. You know, we had in the beginning of this part of the episode her sort of recruitment from the X-Men, from Evangeline. Nice. Evangeline Whedon. She turns into a dragon. Awesome mutant character. Loved seeing her pop up. But we get to see that recruitment, that belief that she can be more. To her current one, that she has to break, that she is sort of embracing the brotherhood, and how much that is just a change. Not a result of bipolarity. I love Blink's little line. I have bipolar friends. Assassination is not a symptom. That was awesome. But we have that whole arc. We, of course, have Marcos trying to reach out. I love that little bit about family. Your family is here. I don't care about them. I don't care about him. I don't care about any of this. I care about our family. That's the connection point between the two of them. But of course, for Lorna, she's already break that. She's thinking about her kids. She's thinking about the future. She's thinking about where the kid's going to grow up. If this world is not going to accept mutants, we're going to have to make a new world. Great power bit. Actually see that, and this is why it stuck out. It's because the plane actually crashed. We got to see the full moment. We got to see her grabbing it. We got to see the buildup of power. We got to see that anger explosion and just all of that emotion coming out right there. It was a nicely crafted scene that showed the whole arc between her and Marcos from the beginning of this season all the way up to the end, why she would break, where that moment comes from, and the conclusion of that. So I just thought that really was a much more encompassing, and we got to see the after effects. We got to see the plane going down, we got to see the explosions, we got to see the look back up, and Lorna is gone, signifying that definite separation now between her and Marcos, the old life and the new life. Then our final wrap-up scenes are playing out towards what's going to happen for next season. We, of course, have the return of Lorna right there next to Esme. Lorna looking with the badass jacket, attitude, and everything like that. You know, this is the new Lorna. And we're basically, I believe, recruiting for the Hellfire Club. That's sort of the whole image that I got. We know that the Brotherhood's around. That was the one thing with Clarice's whole backstory there, that the Brotherhood is around. There's kind of like the Brotherhood and the Mutant Underground seem to be the two kind of like underground competing. Underground, you know, the Mutant Underground is trying to rescue mutants and get them to safe places. Brotherhood a little more proactive, assaulting purifiers and things like that. So we kind of have these two groups. So this didn't really felt like a Brotherhood thing. This seemed, as we were talking about the Hellfire Club, because we have Esme pushing about, say, Magneto, Polaris' father, and of course the Von Struckers, the Fenris twins there, how much they have all had that connection. So that seems to be where they are implying that, where we've got, I mean, come on, let's be honest, we've got Magneto, Polaris, we've got Emma Frost, Esme Frost, we've got the Von Struckers with Andy there, and then of course Fade Sage and the big guy, whose name I totally missed. I'm just calling him the big guy. So it was a cool last little bit, but that wasn't kind of unexpected. I thought Sage was unnecessarily harsh against Caitlin there. Ever since you got here, everything's been falling apart. Really? I mean, Caitlin was right. The HOUND program was coming one way or the other. So that was the one split. I mean, I got Fade because of his argument with Caitlin. Big guy seemed weird. That was just like, we need one more person. Who else has been around this episode? Yeah, let's get him over there. Sage just seemed a little odd to me. I didn't see so much of a conflict at any point up until this last little moment. So I gotta say, that one was a bit of a surprise to me. But I think that's basically where we have our break here. The family's broken up, of course, but we've got our formation of our Hellfire Club in kind of a new form. And I think that's where we're going to be hitting with our two versus groups next season. Now, as for Jace, he's not going to be with Sentinel Services anymore. Loved his dealing with the politics there. Things go down, and suddenly the guy that pushed him, we need a win, you do this, use any force necessary, is now like, well, we seem to have some wounded people and some damages, and there seemed to be some backup that weren't involved, and let me hide behind my little political meetings here. And I completely understand Jace's frustration at this point. Now, there was one interesting point in that scene. Yes, Jace gets mad, yells at anyone. I quit, I'm out of here. We know that he's going to be heading some anti-mutant thing away from Sentinel services by himself. Probably up with Trask Industries would be my guess. And I'm going to throw out that Campbell's not dead. Yes, the plane went down, and we did hear that they lost a senator. So Montez, he's gone, which is fine. But they didn't mention anything about Campbell. At least I don't remember hearing anything about Campbell. And because he does tend to have mutants around him, and he always seems to have a little bit of backup, I'm thinking this may not be the last we've seen of him. Could be. He could be entirely dead. That seems to be a way to end things. But because we didn't hear anything specific, come on, we've all read comics, right? We know this is exactly how it works. If you don't see the dead body, then they aren't dead. So entirely possible that Jace ends up really teaming up with Sentinel services to do something there under a newly damaged and much more upset Roderick Campbell. All right, just a couple of small things. One, elevators. When Reed and Caitlin and Mom get in the elevator, fleeing from Sentinel services, which they know is coming to the building, is the elevator the right choice? I mean, you've just gotten yourself in. What if you're going down at the bottom? That's when Sentinel services shows up and hits the call button. Just opens up and you're right there trapped. I don't know. That just sort of came to my mind when they were waiting for the elevator there. It was like, shouldn't you take the stairs? Madeline Rismond was the name of the assistant that Mama Strucker gave to Reed, who Otto was sort of working with, shot that she was having an affair. There is no Madeline Rismond from the comics. There is a Matthew Rismond. He is the head of the Purifiers, which of course we have already been introduced to. So I think we're going to have probably a little connection going there. Whether or not they introduce Matthew as like the husband or brother or something like that, or they just have Madeline sort of fill that role. Could go either way, but kind of a nice little Easter egg there. I loved after everything that was going on with Esme, that it's the nice house and the tailored clothes that was getting John. I thought was awesome. True, if you're going to have a safe house, might as well be a nice safe house. But I just thought that was sort of interesting, as everything that Esme was sort of playing with everyone else in regards of why they should join the Brotherhood, that for John it was really the kind of backup, the financial support that they were obviously getting that was really getting his attention. Like I said, fighting in Afghanistan, you've got a lot of allies you don't like the best of, but you have to use. So interesting kind of a battle point of view, but I also just thought that was kind of funny, especially with Marcos's line of, well, if I knew that, I would have just bought you a shirt a long time ago. Oh, and Mama Strucker's line to little Lorna there about being human, no, you're more. You're so much more. I thought that was sweet. Lauren's line, something has changed in Andy. Really should have just been an episode title. I know it doesn't have an X in it. But when she said that, I was like, man, that is the perfect episode title right here. Use that. Also, Esme's line, nothing pulls people together like hate. It's true. Sad, but true. And of course, we learn that the medallion that Lorna has, was certainly playing with at the opening of Two Crossroads there, was given to her by her father on her 13th birthday. Yeah. How much do you want to bet that that's going to be some key to open up something in the Hellfire Club, or a lease, or has something inside? I bet you that's not something that's being dropped, that's just going to be left alone. Keep an eye open for it. All right, so I think that's everything. So yes, we have been renewed for a second season. We don't know when they're planning to bring it back, and we don't have an episode count yet. So let us assume for now it's probably going to be a repeat of this. Next fall, probably another 13 episodes, possibly longer, depending on how they weigh things out. So as we find out, I will let you guys know. Now, also coming up, our next sort of X-Men show, Legion, returns on FX in April. I was hoping it was going to be next month, but no, we got a few more months to wait. We'll be back in April. Don't have a specific date yet, but really looking forward to that. Last season I thought was a perfect season. Dan Stevens was amazing. Aubrey Plaza was just magnificent. So really looking forward to seeing what we're going to see for that next season. So look out for that. We will also be having Westworld, one other show that we're looking up, not mutant related, but I'm assuming it's probably going to be back around April also. So a couple of things to look forward to. But that's going to wrap us up for now. Thank you so much for joining me with all of these reviews. Really have appreciated chatting with you guys in the comments section and trading back and forth. All your points of views, all of your ideas really has meant a lot to me. So thank you so much. So, to wrap things up one final time, if you did enjoy this review, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, comments on this episode or anything else this season or what you expect to see for next season, throw those down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Quick, easy, hit this button, catch all these reviews. Legion, Westworld, Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, Preacher, all coming up. Don't miss it. We'll throw up our latest couple reviews right here you can check out. So that's it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.